That was Soup from my new album, One Flesh, One End, available at lacrimorta.bandcamp.com. So today I'm going to do something that I've never done before, and that's pull back the curtain a little bit on my creative process. Let's get started here.
You cut up an onion, burn it at the bottom of the pot, put in a few vegetables and then some meat. It won't taste like anything, so put in a few teaspoons of salt, then it will taste like teaspoons of salt.
That vocal was extremely difficult for me to get down pat. Originally, I didn't envision a situation where I was going to be, for lack of a better term, rapping on a metal song. It's not my style. It wasn't something that I was anticipating at the end of the day, but here we are. Originally, I drafted this in Dreamtonic's Synthesizer 5 as a lark, but it kind of grew on me and I had to practice it a lot. I practiced it in the shower, I practiced it in the kitchen while I was making dinner at night, and one day it just clicked and I was able to do it. And I think that it serves the song.
Can I make soup? You'll be the emperor, makes it for the very first time. Poured over the manuals, I don't like it. Oh, gotta spend 86 hours in the kitchen, but I've read a book and made soup 3 times. Girl, take a bath.
Again, another very difficult line. This was a very fun puzzle to try and solve. And I do want to mention that there is a healthy amount of compression on the vocals. In fact, I tend to think that vocals in general need to be compressed quite a bit. At least that's my design philosophy when it comes to vocals. There also is a tiny bit of auto-tune. I don't actually go in and pitch correct Melodyne style on the graph. I just let it do what it's going to do, and I put it on its lowest setting just to kind of bring things in line together with the instruments of the song, as the keyboards are definitely in tune. And you just want to kind of keep the vocals, rein them in a little bit. So yeah, there's a couple things going on here. I use the Colin Richardson pack from STL Tones. I highly recommend it. It is quite a cool amp sim. I used a lot of the internal FX in the STL Tones amp sim to rein in some of the sounds. Is initially some of them were either like too wet or a little too dry, and I generally think that, especially when it comes to like guitar solos, you need a little delay to kind of make it sound like, oh, you're in a stadium. Woo. I double tracked everything. So like there's a left rhythm guitar and a right rhythm guitar playing the same thing, and then the second guitars, which would be like the more dissonant sounding guitars here, there's a left and a right, and then there's like leads going on. I double tracked those. I double tracked everything from guitars to vocals. It's all double tracked.
Vegetables and then some meat.
I sit here and I listen to these isolated tracks and I just think to myself, wow, I don't know how I went from, that to the end product. think it's really cool to just hear the song as it is without the keyboards in the back. Because there is a song that exists, a version of this song that exists without the keyboards, and I think it's really cool to just be able to hear that. As a side, not to promote something that I'm not being paid to talk about, I do use TuneTrack's Superior Drummer 3. I think it's a great VST, and it provides people like me, bedroom producers, the ability to have awesome sounding drums. I like to use the Death and Darkness. I use full bleed, which means if there's a cymbal being played or there's a snare drum being played, you can hear the bleed between other parts of the drum. And I think that having that in a VST is incredibly powerful because it it just makes the drum sound that much better, at least to me. As far as like compression on the drums, I like to use the Fairchild compressor. It serves as glue and it also makes things more punchy, especially with like vocals and drums.
Look, I made soup. Hey, look, I made soup. What's the minion flavor? Rank the broth in the chunks. It's all running on marrow. The saint of duty. Explore outward the construct goes from his abdomen. It's been what's everywhere. It was perfect. I stir with this spoon. My bones are.
I think this was the first album I actually mixed and mastered in this way. My previous design philosophy was to focus on mixing in mono all the time, and I think that that is still a viable strategy for getting a decent sound. But this time, I really, really focused on spreading things out into the stereo field. And on Lacrimorta's self-titled album from 2022, I had Xenon mix and master that album, and I learned a lot from hearing what he did to my songs originally as I mixed them all in mono before passing them on to him. And I kind of applied some of those strategies he used here to some extent. I also did things a little differently as well. Like I tend to think that rhythm guitars should be on one side and lead guitars should be on the other. I like to have the mix settle in such a way that if you're in the audience and you're listening to a band, you're gonna hear sounds in this stereo field as if you were listening to them from the audience. So like for instance, the hi-hat would be on your right side. That would be what stage left, for instance. And then like rhythm guitars would be one side, leads other, bass straight down the middle, vocals straight down the middle, with some exceptions. That was a really cool kind of lead that was happening here in the chorus. I kind of did this in 2022 as well for some of the songs. One that comes to mind is Moondark Exile. There was very similar leads there. I thought it served that song. I think it serves this song. And there we have those dueling guitars. And as you can see, I did some very heavy editing in there. I'd like to mention that I do sit here. I'll sit here in my studio and I will play these parts many, many times. Sometimes way more than I probably should. Like we're talking 20, 30 times. And I'll take all of those takes that I have like in a comped track and I'll just combine the best parts of the ones I find to be most listenable. I think we're gonna try to listen to the solo here, isolated. I would play the solo in one take. and I would very often screw up the solo. And then after playing it a million times, I would comp it together to make the best possible product. All these little parts and pieces, they come together to make a greater whole. And I think in general that that is a way that I make entire songs. I'll just make little parts like that, throw them together. If it sounds good, we move on. The delay I used there was just the STL tone stock delay. Again, like I mentioned before, I like when guitar solos sound like they're kind of in a stadium.
I stir with this spoon. I pray to the love tune.
That black hole sound there is really cool. I have a lot of these Foley effects going on throughout the song just to help along transitions and to add a little bit more dynamic possibility to the songs. I like doing reverse cymbals. I like huge claps, like huge booms, and all sorts of things to help accentuate transitions. This is, I think that this is something that I started doing on this album. I don't think it's something that I really did too much before, and I found that it definitely adds a level of excitement that when I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, this is great.
And never from the end of your blade.
Yeah, it's a little Cradle of Filth, I guess. The sequence there isn't. I think that that's a little more electronic sounding, but I wanted to with that keyboard part, I really wanted to capture like some sort of like romantic element, especially considering the what this song is based on. You know, Harrowhark, Nona Gessimus, she's on the Mithraeum by herself, isolated in space. There's this just feeling of loneliness and uncertainty. The Saint of Duty, Gideon Prime, he's trying to kill her the whole time, and there's just this creepy thing around the corner. We don't know if Kitharea's still alive. I mean, later on in the book, we find out what really happens, but I wanted to capture some of that intrigue. Typical orchestral hit. I believe that's a wave station. I'll eventually switch over to another session where we'll break down some of these synth sounds, but this is a orchestral hit from Wave Station, I believe, which is a Korg product, and Saw Wave to help accentuate the excitement of making soup. I love that sound. I love how it's like rising and falling at the same time. I want to say that it's a Spire sound, but don't hold me to it. We'll find out.
Of souls, can I make soup?
I love that sound. I love what it's doing in the stereo field. It's a very acid rave. It kind of reminds me of Streets of Rage a little bit. And as we'll see, I pared down a lot of these sounds from the original version of this song just to make space for everything else going on. But man, that is such a cool sound.
You may be emperor.
God, I love those evil sounding vocals in the back. I think I achieved that with Ableton's vocoder and just a lot of distortion on a whispered vocal that was kind of in the same realm as how it came out. Just man, it just pops. It sounds evil. It accentuates the other parts of the vocals and really makes the lyrics pop there. I was really pleased with how that evil sounding vocal came out.
6 hours in the kitchen, but I put a fucking maid soup 3 times. Girl, take a bath.
Yeah, that bath part, same thing. Girl, take a bath. Great. I had a lot of fun making this. Those pipe organs, I believe it's a sound from Korg's M1, which is a very dated, extremely dated keyboard VST. I was able to put like Saturn 2 on there and some multi-band compression, and I think that it's just a solid pipe organ sound that cuts through a mix without overpowering everything else. It's a really cool pad. Help accentuate again the transitions. Transitions are everything. We are more Foley sounds, white noise, reversed white noise. And as you can see here, there's like risers and sweeps going on. Yeah. There's a little demonstration of, the left and right rhythm guitars. They're exactly the same. They're just two different times that I had played it. This part was a little annoying because originally in the chorus I had double bass drums going, and I was palm muting to the double bass drum to kind of accentuate it a little bit. Eventually, took a step back and was like, the double bass drums make that part of the song sound way too busy. So I opened it up a little bit with an entirely different drum part in the 11th hour. It's easy guitar, but it's also when you're on a click track and you're trying to get perfect takes, playing all of those palm mutes exactly the same is just it could be rough. And I used in STL Tones the gate inside of it, and I also used Ableton stock gate, as you can see right in that area, to push down some of the guitar squeal. You could see in that one part where the gate was being pushed down, it was pushing down a lot of stuff. I kind of learned this trick from listening to like metal from the early 2000s, especially like Evanescence. Evanescence inspires everyone. You listen to that, you're like, wow, I wish I could make stuff like that. They had hella gated guitars on that. That's part of how they achieved that clean sound was having gated guitars so Amy Lee's vocals could get through. And I was like, hey, I could probably do that here, clean things up a bit. Something else is this was the first album I ever recorded where I had a 7-string guitar. I don't really like 7-string guitars, but having that extra bit of low end, it was interesting. It was also a challenge to try to implement it into the album itself. We're popping over to the end. So this is like the chorus reprise.
Drift.
Left and right, they're both the same. I played these both the same. As you can see, originally I was probably going to try to triple track it, but I ended up muting that track, and these were the ones 69 and 70 that ended up being the ones I wanted to keep. I just really wanted the guitars to be very tight with the drums here at the end, and I think I achieved that.
It's too proud, so God asked you to make it right. The pen in your jaw still rattled, but still you made soup, yeah.
I'm going to jump over into another session here where we're going to look at the keyboards themselves. And here we are. As you can see, here's where the MIDI was played or drawn in. Sometimes I draw it in. Depends what I'm going for. This is a Korg monopoly. Very romantic sound. As you can see, I did a low cut. I didn't want any of that to interfere with whatever sub bass I have going or with the double kick drums. Here's the Korg monopoly again with a amp, the in-house amp from Softtube in Ableton. The blues distortion, I love it. Another low cut here on this sound because I just want to capture that top end, and the distortion just helped it cut through the mix a little bit better. Here's the Wave Station orchestral hits. If I would have thought about it at the time, I probably would have went for like a DX7 sort of orchestral hit. But I also tend to think that the DX7 orchestral hit is so ubiquitous and so like it's very recognizable, and I didn't want to have a sound that was so recognizable within the scope of my song. So I just combined this orchestral hit with saw wave. This is the pre-chorus. I have this plastic sounding rhythm going here from Spire. I think eventually I ended up either paring it back or cutting it entirely. I think I did cut it entirely because it was clashing with the rhythm guitars quite a bit, and it was just making this part really busy, especially with the vocals and the pad going on here and the pipe organ. There's the pipe organ, the Malice Miser pipe organ. I have a M1, I have a Fab Filter Q Pro Q3, Fab Filter Saturn 2, and a simple glue compressor to mesh all of that together. There's that acid rave sound. It is I made it in Spire, and then I have Ableton stock plugin Autopan. And there's those pads. I made that in UHE Hive. Really, really cool sound. It has kind of like a retro vibe to it and also just like this like spacey retro element. And here in the chorus, once again, M1. And again, it's really cool to hear how the song came out on the end because it's like there's two songs put together. There's one song where it's just the drums, the guitars, the vocals, and then there's this other song where it's the keyboards, the drums, and the bass, and mashing those two together got the end result that was soup. And I mean, usually in my creative process, I start by writing the drums first, drums and bass first, and working on the keyboards first because I think that guitars later can help accentuate or help you to figure out what to eliminate in terms of keyboards, especially in like the spacey kind of music. But yeah, I mean this really is a tale of two songs being mashed together. Yeah, keyboards. The next thing I'm gonna look at really, really quick is just pulling back the curtain on Dreamtonic Synthesizer 5. This is where I wrote the lyrics, painstakingly wrote the lyrics. The way I used Dreamtonic Synthesizer 5 is I would draft MIDI notes in the actual song, and then I would go over and import that MIDI into Dreamtonic Synthesizer 5. So like these MIDI notes here, I imported these from Ableton itself because I didn't want to draw them in here. Because quite frankly, the pencil tool here is a pain in the butt, and it's just a waste of time to do it like that. I think it's better to just make your melody, make your harmony in the actual DAW itself, and then you export out the MIDI. I want to make a note about this part. When I was recording it, I had two instances of my desktop's audio going, so it's gonna kind of sound like it's doubled. Yeah, we're in a tunnel. Just ignore that part. What I want you to hear is I want you to hear the process. Sounds totally different, right? Well, that's because it is different and it started out differently. And the reason why I wanted to demonstrate this is I wanted to show that, hey, this isn't like some like AI chat GPT thing that I use to make these vocals, to write these lyrics. I wrote all the words. I chose the voices I originally wanted to have, or at least in the range I wanted to have. Like originally I wanted to have somebody else sing on this album. So I needed, at least to me, for the album to make sense, I needed an approximation of those voices. I wanted more of an like an Amy Lee kind of sound, so I tapped into Eclipse Sound Solaria, and I used Dreamtonic stock voice, my, to help me visualize what the album could have been. And eventually, I just was like, I Dave Mustained it. I was like, I'm gonna just sing myself, and I'm glad I did. But without these vocals here, I wouldn't have been able to finish the album in the way that it came out. Really cool too. I mean, as you can see all the lyrics here. And this is just such a Dreamtonic Synthesizer 5 is such a powerful tool to be able to draft everything in your computer, do all pre-production in your computer, including vocals. I mean, you can hear the difference between Mai and Solaria. Like I mentioned, Solaria is more Amy Lee. Ooh, Amy Lee's singing for me. Such a really good selling point for Solaria. I really do think she sounds pretty good. But I really, really, really like Mai too. Mai is a solid free edition that you get with a synthesizer V, synthesizer 5. I don't know. I don't know what it's called. I know there's a second version of it out now, but this one serves its purpose. This is what I use it for, and yeah. I was in the kitchen, but I've read a book and made so 3 times go take a bath. I stir with this spoon. I play to the locked. There's a little bit of the harmony there. Drifting through the mid-realm great sun on your back and your hand never far from the end of your blade, and you made soup. Crystal God asked you to make everyone, and there you no longer felt pain and your jaw rattled, but still you made soup. Hey, look, I made soup. Yeah, this is just such a cool tool. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. If you like this kind of content, maybe I'll try to do this again. I think it was really cool to just be able to share some of my process finally. Anyway, hope you check out my new album One Flesh One End at lacrimorta.bandcamp.com.